So guys, welcome to not a let's play I should say. Well, we'll be playing a game, but it is not really a let's play in that there's going to be many episodes. I'm going to record this all in one shot. What you're going to be basically seeing here is Dagon, the short story from H.P. Lovecraft, one of my favorite stories. Don't know how many times I've read it. And yeah, I was contacted by the creators of this game, a Polish studio, and then they sent me some links about how they went through the process of creating this game, how they decided to create it, the mindset, the work ethic they had going into creating this game. They really wanted to pay respect to Lovecraft, all this type of thing. And they even decided to make this game for free for a number of reasons. And yeah, they did send me a key to play the game. However, it is free to play. I did purchase the DLC for 5 Swiss franc, whatever that's in your currency, I don't know. About the same in dollar, I guess. So that was just basically you get some free some paid downloads and such. But yeah, it's just to support the company, because they're putting out something for free. And just from the demo, recently they had the demo out that was just the just halfway through the story, right? And you can see how much effort they put into this, and hard effort like that, it deserves some reward. If they can get something from a DLC, the purchase, I hope a lot of people buy the DLC. It'll motivate them to continue on. Anyway, I'm talking too much. Let's get into this. And yeah, Dagon is a faithful interactive adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's work focused on story and atmosphere. You will not find difficult choices, action sequences, or inventory management here. A movement is limited to progressing through the locations along with the plot.
I am writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more.
Okay. So, it's basically a point and click. You're on the rails, as it were. If you know the term rail shooter, that's an old genre of game. You hardly ever see it anymore. So the commentary is going to be limited from me. I just want you guys to experience how great this effort is to bring Lovecraft's story to life, So during the game, you'll encounter interactive elements. Some will allow you to continue your journey, others revealing interesting facts about the original short story, its historical background, and the author. That's very good. So some of the trivia is hidden. In order to find these secrets, focus your eyes and look for the Elder sign. And I like how they use the original Elder sign. They don't use the star version. They use the one that I actually have tattooed onto my forearm. Yeah. So that's very cool.
Penniless, and at the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable, I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below. Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate. When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death. It was in one of the most open and least frequented parts of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the German sea raider. The Great War was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to their later degradation, so that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners.
The German flag. Let's check it out. The Imperial flag. The Huns were Central Asian nomads who'd established a dominion in Europe and invaded the Roman Empire in the 5th century. Okay, well, maybe we won't go into that one there, into the whole history of it. But yeah, from what I understand, during World War II, that was their sort of flag. They went through various iterations of that flag. Also in World War II, I believe there was sometimes it was used. I'm not exactly 100% certain of that, but I know it was definitely in the First World War.
So liberal, indeed, was the discipline of our captors that 5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone in a small boat with water and provisions for a good length of time. When I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings. Never a competent navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator. Of the longitude, I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in sight.
Imagine how terrifying this would be, huh? To be out there, completely stranded. This was always some of my worst fears, to be stranded in the ocean like this, because, yeah. I know you have a chance of surviving, but Jesus, it's small.
The weather kept fair, and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land. But neither ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness of unbroken blue. The change happened whilst I slept. Its details I shall never know, for my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, was continuous.
What the fuck? The dream sequence.
When at last I awoke, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see, and in which my boat lay grounded some distance away. Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished. For there was in the air, and in the rotting soil, a sinister quality which chilled me to the very core. The region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish, and of other, less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending plain. Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity. There was nothing within hearing, and nothing in sight, save a vast reach of black slime. Yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape oppressed me with a nauseating fear.
That line. Okay, excuse me if I put some input in here, but I love the story so much. Nauseating fear. That is, I think, one of the best lines from the story is that, you know, you can fear something, it can make you scared, it can make you terrified, I mean, it can even make you piss yourself, right? But nauseating, something that is so, it implies something that's so indigestible to the human experience that it's just, it makes you want to throw up. It's so sickening, disgusting, revolting to you. So abhorrent. But it's fear. I really love that line. Yeah, I just wanted to say.
The sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet.
I mean, look at these creatures. In the Dagon story, I believe they were dead mainly, but maybe you could get away with saying that, you know, octopi and the such, even when they're dead, they still move. Either way, I don't think this detracts in any way from what I'm seeing here. This is amazing. Really, Jesus, guys. You guys in Poland, you kicked ass with this, really.
As I crawled into the stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could explain my position. Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths. So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, straining my ears as I might.
Obviously, you know, the fear there is that you know you were in the ocean. Now, there's no ocean. How much, you see, already there's a sort of feeling, Lovecraft was very good here. The amount of land that came up, that you cannot hear the ocean or anything like that, it dwarfs humanity. I always said, like, sometimes with the great old ones, they are absolutely massive in size, and this plays a role. Not all of them were, but a lot of them were just massive, and it just makes you feel small and weak. And the fact that this massive of land can come up, and it's so much that you cannot hear the ocean. It adds an effect. It really does, you know, because if the ocean was there, think of it, because if the ocean was still there, you could hear it. You could think, okay, I'm going to drag my boat there. Fuck this, I'm getting the hell out of here. No. It's like, no, you're stuck. You're confronting this horror that's in front of you. There's no escape. Very good detail.
Nor were there any seafowl to prey upon the dead things. For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens. As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for traveling purposes in a short time. That night I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea and possible rescue.
My pack. I also have to say that, guys, the Polish team made this. You know, a lot of the time with point-and-click games, sometimes you have to wonder where the hell do I click? You know, but here it's very obvious. You know, you guys made it very clear, without forcing, you know, in your face. Just really good job, guys. You know where to go.
On the third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease. The odor of the fish was maddening, but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal.
It's truly just, this landscape is like, you can smell it. Imagine the smell, you know that meme? Yeah.
All day I forged steadily westward, guided by a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on the rolling desert.
That would be what you would go to, but I mean, look here, what do we have? First of all, this looks disgusting, and it brings back a childhood memory of mine when I was living in South Africa in the more suburban/rural area. We dug up a place to put the pool, and I remember the smell of the mud. It looked exactly like this. It really brings back some memories, and you just add the decay of fish. I grew up in a harbor area as well, so I know what rotten fish smells like, and it's just Wow, this is atmospheric as fuck. Really. Jesus, this is good. You just keep going. Keep going. A whale. A humpback whale, I believe. Or was it the southern right whale? I used to love whales. I did a school project about them. Back in South Africa.
That night, I encamped, and on the following day still travelled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it.
Like, you also have to realize the horror in the story is like the only thing you have that is part of your quote-unquote old life is that boat. You know, there's nothing else, but the boat is useless. But still, you have to realize, I think a lot of people will just, in this scenario, maybe they decide to wait by the boat. Maybe the land goes down again. But to leave it, you know, it's like, rarely you feel alone. At least that little boat there, something familiar. But to leave it, yeah. Just saying.
By the fourth evening, I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had appeared from a distance. An intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface. Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill. I know not why my dreams were so wild that night, but ere the waning and fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain, I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more. Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again, and in the glow of the moon I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day. Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy. Indeed, I now felt quite able to perform the ascent which had deterred me at sunset.
This is beautiful. The stars, the clouds moving, the wisps of clouds, the subtle glow of that green. This is... yeah, there's a before I go on, there's a band from Greece. I think they're from Greece. Yeah, the Seal of Arlia, they're called. I sometimes use their music with their permission. I even contacted them in my videos. And there's this one track that what we are hearing now, it kind of reminds me of that. The Underwater Cities of Dagonian Madness, I think is the name of the track, or something like that. And is the most atmospheric, one of the most atmospheric pieces of music I've had before Lovecraft, and it's just so fitting right now. I mean, look at this atmosphere. You guys did amazing work. You guys there in Poland, I'm so impressed.
Picking up my pack, I started for the crest of the eminence. I have said that the unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me. But I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon, whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illumine. I felt myself on the edge of the world.
It's beautiful. Truly.
Peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night. Through my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost, and of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness. As the moon climbed higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined.
Yeah, what would your choice be in this scenario if you think about it? You came so far. There's nothing else to walk towards. Now you're faced with this descent. Obviously, you'd go through it.
Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent. Whilst after a drop of only a few hundred feet, the declivity became very gradual.
God, I'm interested to see what Dagon looks like.
Urged on by an impulse which I cannot definitely analyze, I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the gentler slope beneath.
Or I should say, the story is called Dagon. It's not necessarily the creature that we see as Dagon. It could be something that's worshipping Dagon. It could be something that is worshipping something else that isn't Dagon. Sandy Peterson of his channel there, Sandy of Cthulhu, he mentioned that in the Call of Cthulhu, the story, maybe that isn't even Cthulhu that we see. Personally, I believe it is. But he has a fair point in saying it might just not be. Maybe it's like a guardian or something. You know? But yeah. Well.
Gazing into the Stygian deeps, where no light had yet penetrated.
I mean, what the hell must you be feeling? Jesus. I don't know much about computer graphics and renderings and such. Yeah, I'm a retro gamer. I'm used to 8-bit, 16-bit, and the early 90s PC games. I played a few modern games here and there. But I mean, wow. It's just... I can imagine myself being here, and it's just... It is nauseating. The smell aside, it's just... You just feel this is wrong. This is all wrong, you know? It's just... You shouldn't be... what am I sounding like? Greta Thunberg. It's all wrong. I shouldn't be here. But yeah, that's it. You should not be here. This is not for humans.
All at once, my attention was captured by a vast and singular object on the opposite slope, which rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me. An object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon.
Okay, let's go see.
That it was merely a gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself. But I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature. A closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express.
Look at this. Let's go for it.
For despite its enormous magnitude, and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young, I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange object was a well-shaped monolith, whose massive bulk had known the workmanship and perhaps the worship of living and thinking creatures. Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist's or archaeologist's delight, I examined my surroundings more closely. The moon, now near the zenith, shone weirdly and vividly above the towering steeps that hemmed in the chasm.
Fucking hell. Look at this. Beautiful.
And revealed the fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom, winding out of sight in both directions and almost lapping my feet as I stood on the slope. Across the chasm, the wavelets washed the base of the cyclopean monolith, on whose surface I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures. The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics unknown to me and unlike anything I'd ever seen in books. consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as fishes, eels, octopi, crustaceans, mollusks, whales, and the like.
Here's something I might have changed. If any of you developers are watching here, like, the central image is very good, right? But the outer ones, like the turtle at the top there on the top right, the sharks, the mollusks, the seahorse, this type of stuff, although it's an accurate depiction of what you are seeing, what the actual animals look like, I would say that something more stylized would be better for this game. You know, if you were to like issue a version 2.0 or something like that, this change I think would benefit a little bit, because this one, it looks like something a human would do. Like, if you ask a human, here's a stone, let's put on some seahorses, some hammerhead sharks, stuff like that, okay, this is the type of thing they would do, right? I think maybe if you try to change it a little bit to something more stylized and less obviously human, I think it would be better. Still amazing, I'm just giving some positive criticism.
Several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern world, but whose decomposing forms I had observed on the ocean-risen plain. It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most to hold me spellbound.
Alright, we'll look at this one then. Dagon contains many themes and storytelling methods that Lovecraft developed in his later work, such as telling the story through carvings. At the Mountains of Madness, the Nameless City, for example. Journals and characters' notes, The Shadow Out of Time, The Haunter of the Dark, for example. Islands emerging from the ocean, The Call of Cthulhu, of course. Or fictional beings and deities based on real events and mythologies. Migo in The Whisper in Darkness, of course. He came up with that, I think it was in 1933 he wrote that. And that was around the same time when they discovered Pluto. The planet, yes, Pluto is a planet, I don't care, get away from me with that dwarf planet rubbish, it's a planet. I grew up with Pluto as a planet. And then, of course, when that was discovered, he integrated this new scientific discovery in his story. Of course, he called that planet Yagoth. Much more interesting, isn't it, Yagoth, than Pluto, but nonetheless. Further reading, it also says here, it's also considered the origin of the popular Cthulhu mythos. Yeah, I'd say so, yeah. If you wanted to go back and look at one of his earliest works, of course you have the Tomb, no, was it, yeah, it was the Tomb, I think, was one of the earliest works he did. But I think Dagon is when he really took off. That's when it's like, okay, full-on Lovecraft mode. He did Juvenalia before that, obviously, but it's Juvenalia, you know. You only get into your stride after some experience, but Dagon, that's when it's like, okay, Lovecraft mode activated, you know. Some of Lovecraft's other stories are also conclude in a manner similar to Dagon, but let's skip the details in order to not spoil the ending. Well, guys, I think everyone's read Dagon, unless you've changed something. I wouldn't say it's bad if you did change it somehow, but just saying.
Plainly visible across the intervening water, on account of their enormous size, were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of a Doré.
Doré was an artist, if you don't know. I think it was an artist, yeah.
I think that these things were supposed to depict men, at least a certain sort of men, though the creatures were shown disporting like fishes in the waters of some marine grotto, or paying homage at some monolithic shrine which appeared to be under the waves as well. Of their faces and forms I dare not speak in detail, for the mere remembrance makes me grow faint. Grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer. They were damnably human in general outline, despite webbed hands and feet, shockingly wide and flabby lips, glassy, bulging eyes, and other features less pleasant to recall. Curiously enough, they seem to have been chiseled badly out of proportion with their scenic background.
See, at that point you're immediately assuming as a human, oh no, it's out of proportion. Come on, you got the whales there. These things are too big. But they aren't really, are they?
For one of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself.
Yeah. So whales, I did, as I said, studies on whales when I was in school. You know, school projects. God, I have nostalgia for that. Such a simpler time. Now I'm doing goddamn computer coding. Anyway, I digress. What do we have here for whales? Humpback whale, I believe. I believe that one there is a southern right whale. Might be mistaken, but I believe that is a southern right whale. It's more, what do you call it, squat in its face. It's more like a bulldog almost, compared to the more elegant mouth of these others. Which I think that's a humpback, I'm not sure. Well, this one is a humpback, because it's got that little bump there, right? Oh well, okay, that one also does there at the bottom. I digress, let's move on.
I remarked, as I say, their grotesqueness and strange size, but in a moment decided that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing or seafaring tribe. Some tribe whose last descendant had perished eras before the first ancestor of the Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born. Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond the conception of the most daring anthropologist, I stood musing whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel before me.
Once again, just take a moment to pause. Jesus. Auto animation's pretty decent by my book. Look at the way the moonlight plays on it. That's just so... That's really good. Look at the stars. I don't know, there's just something hypnotic about it. And then if you're faced with this, obviously it's yeah, it's not natural. I mean, what the hell must you think then when you see this? To be faced with this, you're everything. This is like the X factor in the story. That's the moment that when like the red pill gets shoved down your throat, whether you like it or not. Is if you look back to The Thing, the movie, when Bennings, I believe the character was called, but yeah, Bennings, he was the first one they caught him in the middle of his change into a thing, and then you're just faced with something, and this is not of humanity. This is something wrong. This is something existentially changing everything for humanity from now on. You know, and this is so good. It really is.
Then, suddenly, I saw it. With only a slight churning to mark its rise to the surface, the thing slid into view above the dark waters.
Oh my god, okay. Let's see it. Oh,
loathsome. It darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith, about which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds. I think I went mad then. Of my frantic ascent of the sloping cliff and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember little.
I like this insanity effect. This is... Yeah, you want to get out. You want to get out.
I believe I sang a great deal and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing.
At this point in the game, I would have added personally some voice effects to the guy, like muttering, gibbering, like slight singing.
I have indistinct recollections of a great storm sometime after I reached the boat. At any rate, I know that I heard pearls of thunder and other tones which nature utters only in her wildest moods. When I came out of the shadows, I was in a San Francisco hospital. Brought thither by the captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean. In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention. Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing. Nor did I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe.
Lovecraft was a prominent figure in the world of amateur journalism. In 1915, he started publishing his own journal called The Conservative. I actually own that book. I got it very recently. It's a very good book, worth a purchase if you ever find it, which included political and social commentary, poetry, short stories, and literary criticism written by him and other authors. Howard was a skilled wordsmith, but he also took criticisms to heart, which resulted in his decision to step away from writing poetry and concentrate on weird fiction again for the first time since his teenage years. Dagon, published in 1917, is one of the short stories written during that period. In this example excerpt from The Conservative, the master of horror fiction explains his attitudes towards warfare and the idea of world peace. Why any sane human being can believe in the possibility of universal peace is more than the conservative can fathom. Should the entire civilized world agree simultaneously to disarm, one or more nations would undoubtedly retain secret armaments and at the proper time take advantage of their more altruistic and less astute contemporaries in a wild career of conquest against the unarmed victims. No country is, or ever can be, above warfare, until the basic impulses of the human animal shall have miraculously changed. Undoubtedly true. Nobody can question that. Very well done. Nothing else we can see here. Let's go.
Once I sought out a celebrated ethnologist and amused him with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon, the fish god.
Dagon, or Dagon, was the main deity of the Philistines, worshipped throughout the Middle Ages as the ancient god of fertility and crops. Okay, well, I'll leave that. That's not in H.P. Lovecraft's work. Dagon is an underwater deity ruling over the deep ones, a humanoid race with fish traits that resides in the oceans. He is worshipped by a secret cult called the Esoteric Order of Dagon. Of course, we see that in the shadow over Innsmouth. Nothing else we can click.
But soon perceiving that he was hopelessly conventional, I did not press my inquiries.
August Derleth in the Cthulhu mythos. August Derleth was an American writer and anthologist. He also befriended Lovecraft and published many of his works through his company Arkham House. Although he greatly contributed to the popularization of the author's works after his death, he is surrounded by numerous controversies. Very true. One of his most questionable decisions involved introducing the good versus evil doctrine. Derleth was a devout Catholic to the Cthulhu mythos, which contrasted with Lovecraft's view of the world and his approach to cosmic horror. As a result, the author's works are often misunderstood and misrepresented in today's culture. It is also worth noting that Lovecraft was never really interested in creating a mythology, and the term Cthulhu mythos was coined by Derleth after the author left the mortal plane. You guys who made this, you really have your facts straight. You really do about this whole thing. Derleth, he inserted good and evil. That just there's just no good and evil. There's no good and evil. If there's something that is evil, if you want to interpret, if you are like Legras, when he went in the Call of Cthulhu to confront the cultists, he might see that as evil. You even see sometimes the protagonists in Lovecraft's stories use the word satanic. That is from the perspective of the humans. They see it as that. But in the actual story, there's no good and evil. Things just are as the way they are. That is very important. And Derleth, he kind of missed that out, really. But props must be given to him for establishing Arkham House. And now there's the Arkham Reporter. What else is there to look at? Not much here, and let's go back. Nothing of value here. Let's go out the door, maybe.
It is at night, especially when the moon is gibbous and waning, that I see the thing.
Penniless, and at the end of my...
I tried morphine, but the drug has given only transient surcease, and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave. So now I am to end it all, having written a full account for the information or the contemptuous amusement of my fellow men.
Yeah. Sorry, I think maybe they made an abridged thing there. I think one of the lines was penniless, and then at the end of my supply of the drug, which provides only transient surcease or something like that. I read this goddamn story so many times, I know the lines, but maybe that was at the beginning of the story. Maybe I missed it out.
Often, I ask myself if it could not all have been a pure phantasm. A mere freak of fever, as I lay sun-stricken and raving in the open boat after my escape from the German man-of-war. This I ask myself, but ever does there come before me a hideously vivid vision in reply. I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may at this very moment be crawling and floundering on its slimy bed, worshipping their ancient stone idols and carving their own detestable likenesses on submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite. I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows to drag down into their reeking talons the remnants of puny, war-exhausted mankind. Of a day when the land shall sink and the dark ocean shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium.
Oh boy, yeah. Yep.
The end is near. I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it. It shall not find me. God, that hand! The window! The window!
Thank you for playing. We hope you enjoyed immersing yourself in our little pool of cosmic horror. We would appreciate it if you took a moment to rate Dagon and check out our other games and DLCs. I definitely will be doing that one. Leaving feedback. Alright, leaving feedback just takes me to the Steam page. I'm gonna review this for sure. You have my word. Oh my god. This is excellent. This is truly excellent. It's just perfect. It really is. A few changes. I think I found two things where I said I didn't even say they were bad things. I just said maybe you could have done it there, like this or that. But I mean, this is brilliant. You know, the amount of effort you went into designing everything. The narrator is perfect. I love that English tone he was speaking in there. It's really excellent. It's point and click, but it's not that you get sort of lost where to click or something like. Because sometimes that can get like frustrating and then ruin the tone or the pacing of the story. This is just really fucking good. It really is. Yeah, I'm just really happy. And you know, I'm also so happy to see that after viewing the reading what these guys had to say about the production of this and how they went about it and their efforts and deciding to make this free, at least at the beginning. They deserve some monetary reward. This took time and effort. This is goddamn amazing. It really is. And yeah, you guys have my full support. If any of you are watching, any of the producers of this game, you let me know if I can do anything to help with any future projects, anything like that, be it like promotion or I don't know, in any way. I'm fully there behind this because this is really extraordinary. It's really cool to see. Let's see the credits here. These guys deserve to have their credits seen. You know, I mean, really, they're doing some excellent stuff here. So yeah, I would they even put the font there. I kind of like the font as well. But yeah, if any time you guys ever need any of help or any assistance in any way, I'm fully behind you guys. So trivia was some of the things that we discovered. Surely I missed a bunch maybe. But anyway, yeah, it's really amazing. I'm gonna end this part of the video here. This is the Let's Play. That's it for it now. This is it. But I'm gonna maybe add in some extra thoughts afterwards. We'll go look through maybe their So I thought before ending this video, should take a look at a little bit of the behind the scenes type of stuff about this company that is Bit Golem, they are called, who have released this game. So they're a Polish developer, as it says here, that they are an indie duo. So two guys from Poland, passionate about creating narrative games and not starving to death. Well, I hope, some of the views and such here can boost some of the sales of your game. Well, I mean, you're selling for free, but we'll get into that later. They said they made the decision to release the game our first game for free, and the reasons behind it. I mean, they've put in a great amount of effort into this. So you might be wondering, why did they release it for free, considering, usually everything sells for a little bit. We decided to start with a short 30 to 60 minute experience for busy people based on the works of weird fiction authors we enjoy. Lovecraft, Edgar Allan Poe, and Stefan Grabinski. I actually have a copy of his book there, Stefan Grabinski. I think his most famous story was called like The Motion Demon. Something like this. I read it like years ago. I think I'll put the correct name on there. But yeah, I know Stefan Grabinski. I have a his book here. He does short stories, and he is sort of known as the Polish Poe, the Polish Lovecraft. That's how I found him. And they list Dagon as being their first project. I think that's a very good choice. You know, there's a lot of good imagery there. It's not too long, so you know they don't have to spend too much time into making the thing. Appeal to both Lovecraft cultists. I love how I also refer to my viewers as cultists, you know, and people have never had a chance to delve into his works. That's very true, you know, because he has a lot to get through. You guys really chose the right story in choosing Dagon, you know. Dagon is 100% faithful to the original, fully voiced, is 100% original, faithful to the original. It truly is. I didn't find any errors really. None that I can really think of. It's just brilliant. It really is. And yeah, the voicing was excellent, you know. It really does let you experience it, and as I say, in a lunch break. So they really are trying to just introduce people into Lovecraft, you know. It's very just, they went through a great effort to do this. Most of the game's models, textures, and audio come from various asset stores. I don't know about that sort of stuff. I haven't developed the game, as we currently can't afford to hire graphic artists and modelers. But that's certainly our plan for the future. Plus, we really strive to make the style coherent and atmospheric. You've done that. You've done that. Don't worry, guys. You've done that. Stick with what you're doing here, and you're not going to go wrong. Hiring graphic artists and modelers. Yeah, from my perspective, everything looks good. I assume modelers is more for like the characters and such. Things which move, and I'm not sure. I'm not really a game developer, but hopefully you guys can afford them later on. But even if you reproduced another Lovecraft story, it would be great, even if you didn't have it. We also couldn't spend years on development, so we focused on creating a faithful atmospheric adaptation without difficult choices, inventory, or etc. Our goal was to present the story we love. And you guys, it's really clear these guys love Lovecraft, you know. They're not doing it, oh, let's make a buck. I mean, it's for free, you know. You can buy the DLC for $5, and it's not like we're gonna get that $5, guys, you know. No, these guys truly love Lovecraft, and it's so clear. We hope to introduce many people to the Cthulhu mythos this way. That's really admirable, truly. Why we're selling? We're giving it for free, since we're quite often asked why. Gauging interest, gauging interest. Yeah, to see if people are interested in this type of thing. Learning. We want to create and release the game by ourselves without the help of professionals. Marketing budget. Yeah, okay, that's good. So, you know, you're just testing yourselves, building a fan base. Well, you can definitely count me in it, and if I know my audience, you can count maybe a couple thousand, definitely, because one of my like almost 15,000 subs. I'm sure at least you can have a couple thousand of those who will be willing to shell out some cash to play your games in the future. DLC with extra content. Yeah. I bought the DLC. These guys deserve really to have some motivation in the future, you know, because I mean in the end you do have to pay bills and such. They need some reward for doing this, you know. I think so. Yeah, they are working on various languages, it seems, here as well. The voice actor was brilliant, you know. They plan to release it on August 20th, Lovecraft's 131st birthday. Not only do they know when it's his birthday, but they know which one it is. You know, that's just so... Hindrances in our private lives and commitments stemming to... trust me, I know about all that. The private life getting in the way of your Lovecraftian projects, yeah. Skyrim, Grandma likes Dagon. That's the old lady that plays Skyrim. Okay, that's good. Secondly, on a more serious note, the general response has been very positive, and Dagon remains in the top 5 of the upcoming Lovecraftian games lists on Steam. Yeah, I took a screenshot, put up now, and it says it was overwhelmingly positive. So you guys are really nailing it. Very well done. Our first goal was to hit 5,000 wishlist by okay, I don't know about wishlist, but 11,000. So you went overboard there. You really nailed it. So that's all, folks. It says here. Here you have their details, their Facebook, their Twitter, their Steam store. I will link everything down below. And yeah, yeah, it's an amazing thing. I hope you guys can go check them out, support them, even just like going to Steam and playing it for free. And like they said, it's 30 minutes. You know, go play it, enjoy it. You know, even if you watch me play it, just play it yourself. You know, you maybe would like to just immerse yourself. You know, maybe consider buying the DLC. It's $5. I mean, what does $5 get you anyway these days? Yeah, so just go support them. They really deserve it. You know. As for the DLC, okay, so this is the DLC basically. Obviously, you download it. It's called the Eldritch Box DLC. So you get an audiobook. You get 2 versions, as you can see here. You have the AAC version, FLAC, and MP3. But you get it in 2 flavors. You can have it enhanced, so it's going to have like some background soundtracks, or you can have just the plain. So it's going to be the voice that you heard basically in the story, in the thing there. In the ebook, you get an ebook obviously of Dagon. You get the EPUB, Mobi, and the PDF. And as you can see, you get it German, English, Spanish, French, Italian, Japanese, Polish, Portuguese, but the Brazilian version, Russian, Turkish. Is that? I don't even know what that is. There's a short story here from someone else, Irvin S. Cobb. I don't know what that fish head is. What? It kind of rings a bell. And you get a bunch of wallpapers as well for your various resolutions and such. So what do we get here? You get something like this. Yeah, it looks, yeah, it's very cool. All for $5. You know, I mean, you get some DLC. That's always good to have. So yeah, much appreciated. Anyway, guys, that's all I have to say for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please consider giving it a like. And a comment just to boost in the algorithm to get this video out there. I like these guys to have some support, to some more eyes on their projects, as it were. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the comment section or the next video or whatever's coming next. Have a good time. Cheers.